Swagger on point when I step in. Signs in the air for the gang that you're repping. Don't get brave when I'm stepping in the rave. If you show man love, everything's okay. So looking for a lively brave to have fun in. If there ain't girls in the place, we ain't coming. Middle finger up to the Jake, stepping in with the gang. Please tell the police they can't come in. Show me a salute, that's gang. Pure love for the crew, that's gang. Don't chat shit if you ain't gonna bang. Just show man a sign if you're down for the gang. Show me a salute, that's gang. Pure love for the crew, that's gang. Don't chat shit if you ain't gonna bang. Just show man a sign if you're down for the gang. Sign if you're down for the gang.
Can't fuck with the gang, we don't fucking pretend. We be busting the clubs, cause you know that we can. Can't fuck with the gang, we don't fucking pretend. Still rocking the show, still feeling the flow.
Welcome back, Juventinita, to the Juventinita Back to Black and White podcast. My name is Daniel Negro, and I'm live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And today we're going to be going over the preview of the Coppa Italia Final versus Napoli, which is going to be happening obviously tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be hopefully an interesting final. Last game was very interesting. I know it was the first game, it was a start, but yeah, let's and also again I have another a new guest, new face. We're on the trot. I think it's 3 on the trot now for new opinions, new voices. So, but before I introduce my guest, again, if you guys could smash the subscribe button. I know you guys, it's been pretty cool to see all the followers, retweeting and commenting and stuff like that. So, you guys can please smash the subscribe, drop a like, and a comment. What you guys liked, what you guys didn't like, different opinions, whatever, and click if you want to get the notification so that you can hear it obviously when the next one comes out. Please hit the bell beside the subscribe. Also, if you're an iTunes or Spotify listener, subscribe. Obviously those will pop up whenever they are uploaded. They usually take a couple hours to come up just because of their protocol, but and yeah, just keep up to date. We're going to be doing a lot this summer and into next year because I believe the season's going to start on the 12th. So there's going to be a lot of content, a lot of podcasts, a lot of new guests, and then we'll get into a rotation. So, but without further ado, me keep going on. We have a Juve fan, obviously, again from the WhatsApp group, Juan Pablo from Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. Pleasure to be here. An honor. First time in the podcast.
Yeah, so again, we're, I believe, like I said, 3 times on the trot. We like to hear new stories, new opinions, but what made you become a Juve fan? Juan Pablo.
Well, my parents' side of the family has always has a heritage of Italian family, and well, that inclined to always following the Azzurri, the Italian national team. And when I was young, circa 2004, 2005, I decided I had to choose a side in Serie A. So I investigated a little bit through the teams in Serie A, and I like the history of Juventus, the philosophy they always had, and how they were always close to successful Italian national teams, like the Fidanza d'Italia, the famous nickname
exactly.
Juve.
Do you have any particular family rivalries, or is it all Juve fans?
Well, because of the family origins are from Rome, my father actually likes Roma. But I'm the more intense Serie A club fan in the family line, you would say.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have family, it seems like, everywhere. So obviously on my mom's side, more closer to Rome. So I have her uncle's a Rome fan, but then her cousin, which is obviously her uncle's son, is a Lazio fan, and his son is also a Lazio fan. And then again, wide variety. I know I have an uncle who's a Merda fan. There's There's lots. I have a cousin who's a Merida fan, a couple Juve fans as well. So it's all over the board for me as well. But yeah, it's I loved it. I love that fact, and I think that's a good point. Like you said, Juve being so close to the Italian national team, and I think that's something we've got kind of away from. But it was always nice seeing your players obviously represent the country, and especially when you look at the 2006 team, where I was kind of how old was I? I think 10, 12 years old, but honestly, it was probably one of the best experiences internationally, at least, right? So that was surreal, but yeah, that's a great story, and obviously you said you have family. So is it you were obviously born in Bolivia, and obviously your family emigrated from
Yeah, it's
Italy?
like a third generation backwards. That it was the heritage.
Okay. Okay.
So not contact close, but there's still the heritage and the tradition, but
Yeah.
no, not too close to the country right now.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
I know there was a big immigration from obviously Italy, obviously everywhere, North America, South America, right? But yeah, that's always good to hear. And let's get right into the news. Might as well. So I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of that special drop, that box kit that came out that I'm gonna put it to rest, but apparently it's sold out. The flop sold out.
really.
I don't know who's buying it. I guess there was only 500 pieces, so really you can't. It's kind of an easy feat to do.
Yeah.
But then apparently they ended up on eBay. Some people trying to make some
Extra
bank
money.
off of them. Yeah. They did that with the 120th anniversary, and if there's any loyal Juve fans that did that and bought those jerseys and were selling them for 500 and 750 euros, shame on you. But yeah, I'm still pretty butthurt about that one. But anyways, yeah, no, they sold out, but I don't know.
That's
what
quite
was the hype of.
surprising.
Yeah. What did you think about what do you think about the obviously the new jerseys and obviously the Ultra Boost that have been rumored? I know it's been talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, about the locker room edition, I was like, it's a desperate move from you to make some more money, I guess. But yeah, on the Ultra Boost, I actually like them. I like the kind of Adidas sneakers. I use them a lot, but once I can buy some, I think I'm gonna go for it. Even though it's not the traditional colors, especially that orange, but they're, in my opinion, they actually look good.
Yeah, I think they're a great shoe. Like I have about 2-3 pairs of like obviously different colorways and stuff like that. But I'm surprised they just didn't do anything earlier. And in black and white like this Ultra shirt. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird what Adidas is doing. They're not making me very happy as of late. I mean, they had some great shirts, but what can you do? Obviously coming up, Champions League fixtures looking to be finalized. The executive meeting's on the 17th, so tomorrow we're gonna find out what they're concocting and see what they come up with. It's pretty straightforward from what everyone's been kind of discussing. Obviously, mid-July they'll have a draw for the final 8, and then around August 7th or 8th we'll have the round of 16 second legs that haven't been finished. I believe there's about 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4.
So obviously that'll be in Turin. That's kind of been confirmed. I guess tomorrow will be the nail in the coffin if it happens or not. And then obviously the next games will happen on the August 12th, 15th is being rumored. Quarterfinal for only one leg. And August 18th through 19th, semifinal, one leg. And then obviously the final will be on August 23rd, which was a little bit closer than what people were saying. Obviously the 29th or the 30th, but it's going to be, from what we're hearing, the 23rd in Lisbon. All of the quarterfinal, semifinal, and final will all happen in Lisbon. And the 2021 CL final is going to look to be in Istanbul, so they're going to make that up for it next year. And then obviously the teams that were bidding for next year get pushed back. But yeah, what do you think? What were your thoughts about that on the one leg games? I know we're kind of that's kind of a bogey for us, but
Yeah, well, first I think UEFA did their best to actually finish the competition.
yeah,
Especially taking into account that the bigger leagues are also trying to finish their seasons right now. The German Premier League, well, is going to restart soon, and La Liga and Serie A already playing their seasons. So that's what they had to do. But as you said, one leg eliminations and knockouts for Juve, especially with Sarri, who we're not sure even now. It's kind of dangerous, right? Because it's actually why I'm really expectation for tomorrow's game, because I think the result we get tomorrow could actually mean a lot for the rest of the season, in the emotional and mental level for the team. Especially, it will be the second final that Sarri would win in his career after the Europa League with Chelsea, because the one with the Super Coppa, it was lost against Lazio, and that actually had an impact in the team. So it will be a strange finish to the Champions League, but I think we have to take advantage that the team is gonna have some mileage in their legs, in difference to what Bayern Munich is gonna have, because they're gonna have their season finished in a couple of weeks, I think, if I'm not wrong, and so they're gonna have a stop between the finish of the league and the start of the Champions League. So I think that would benefit us and La Liga and Premier League sides. But let's see. It will be a pretty strange Champions League. If we end up winning, it will be a pretty weird one to win.
yeah. Well, I think yeah, just with the one legs, but yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say, well, even Bayern today, they've clinched the title, right? So now even the next couple weeks might not. Maybe they'll use it as a tune-up, but it doesn't really mean anything, anyways. Correct? So.
Exactly.
What do you think that's more of an advantage? So obviously you think us playing right before it starts is going to give us that advantage, because like I've been asking everyone, what's going to be, not necessarily the best way, but Lyon could be, who knows, they could just play one game and sit back
Win.
and win, right? Or whatever,
Yeah.
blitz us and we'll get thrown off guard because we've been playing so many games, right? But I guess there's no really proven answer until obviously August. But so you think obviously playing until the end there is going to give us an advantage over, let's say, a team like Bayern or obviously some of the French teams?
Yeah, well, as you said, it has its pros and cons, right? Because they're gonna be rested, but maybe too rested, like coming out from the pandemic. So Lyon is gonna be a good test for that. They're gonna be only training between themselves until the game against us. So, and it's gonna be a match where we have to play it all. We have to score and win that game. It's a must. So it will be a good test to show if it's really going to be an advantage for us or it's going to be something detrimental.
Right.
But I think it's going to play for us. I hope I'm right in this one.
Yeah, let's see what happens. And looking towards, obviously, this final, it looks like Chiellini, Higuain, Demiral, and obviously Ramsey are going to be traveling to Rome. Obviously it's a final, right? If we end up winning, it would be you're going to want to be there as a player, even though if it looks like the first three that I said probably are very unlikely to play. Ramsey has a slightly better chance, but I don't think Sarri is going to risk him, and that's kind of what's been reported in the news. And like I said earlier, Gazzetta dello Sport is reporting that Serie A could restart on September 12th, so kind of a quick turnaround. It's going to be interesting when that time comes, how everything's going to be played. Obviously, the Euros being next summer as well. I want to get into obviously a transfer that's obviously affecting both of the clubs that are going to be playing tomorrow. Obviously, Milik has agreed to personal terms. It's been kind of cited, so 5 mil per season. And yeah, what do you think about that move? I think I don't think we should be, for a player that's going to be at 40 million around, maybe more. I don't think it's worth. I think we got to look at the midfield. But anyways, Juan Pablo, your opinion on the Milik rumors?
I agree on the fee. If it was for a cheaper kind of deal, I would be all in, because although Milik has injury dubs, he's already had 2 knee injuries while at Napoli. He has the talent and the technicality, in my opinion, but the wages and the fee seem a bit much for a player that, in my opinion, I think it would be a backup striker. I don't think he's gonna come in to be the main man in attack. I think, especially with what we've seen against Milan, it seems like Sarri wants to use Ronaldo in that number 9 main striker position. So
yeah,
Milik would come to be a backup. So 5 million a season with a fee of around 40-50 mil seems a bit much. But on the bright side, I think if he comes as a backup, it could be a kind of stepping stone till we get a younger, higher rated striker, one like Gabriel Jesus, Haaland, whose names have also been circling around, but not for now, but for the future. So if we could get a swap deal, I was reading some reports that said Bernardeschi plus 20 mil for Milik. That could be better, right?
yeah. I don't know. I think Napoli will be tough. Napoli will be a tough team to bargain with, and it's just a lot of money. Like right now, it's a lot of money. Like I know they're saying Zaniolo 60, 70 million. I would rather even spend that, even though we probably won't, because it's just right now it's very financially difficult to talk about any deals right now. So, and then obviously Arthur he's still refusing, and it's just like, honestly, to me, it's just like, fuck the deal. Get the 60, 70 million for Pjanic if that's what they want, and just leave it at that. Because why are we pushing this so hard? It's killing me. Like, I don't know. What do you think, Juan Pablo?
In the media, it's almost said that Juventus is begging Arthur to come to go to Turin, and that's not a good look. No, nowhere. So plus today he started. There were reports were saying that he was going to be benched until he accepted the move, but today he started in a game for Barcelona. So I agree with you. Either sell Pjanic to Barcelona, PSG, Chelsea, whoever wants him, and use that money to buy a better midfielder.
Yeah, I think it's just they don't want to pay cash, right? That's kind of why they're looking for the swap, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I get we got to get rid of Pjanic, but it's not looking good in that deal. I hope we find something else and we can look over. But anyways, let's get into this match right now, this Coppa Italia final. Obviously, this is going to be Juve's 19th Coppa Italia final. Obviously, 13 of them we've won so far, and possibly could be the 5th in 6 years if we do win tomorrow, hopefully. Kind of a new thing. Match will go to penalties. PKs, if it ends in a draw, there's not going to be any extra time, even though it's a final. Just for all of all the viewers kind of knowledge, it's going to be at 9 p.m. Central European Standard Time. Obviously 1 p.m. Mountain Time where I am, noon Pacific, and 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, actually, it was funny because I looked on the projection of where Bolivia was, and I was like, I did not realize South America was that far. When you were telling me it was Eastern before, to pick a time, obviously, to do this podcast. It's crazy how the time
Someone moves. The time zones move.
zones are drawn. But yeah, so kind of some words that Sarri has been putting out there, obviously in his pre-match press conference. He talked about the intensity and still thinks that really the 5 days isn't going to be a massive jump. There's still going to be difficult moments, and it's going to be tough mentally and tactically, and kind of we're just going to have to, get through it, be as good as we can, and, try and win the game, right? He's also talked about the position of the attackers and them being more defensive than attacking. And because we can't play the role of a central striker, right? Because obviously he's put Ronaldo there, but it didn't really look good. And now there's also been reports, which we'll get into later, that we're going to be using the same formation. So, but he's also said that there's freedom to move up top, which obviously we want to see, and we want to see them obviously moving or getting into open space, passing obviously in the kind of the triangle formation that Sarri likes to employ, quick passes. But what do you think? What did you think about Sarri's thoughts? Kind of, he said, obviously he talked also about not winning anything important as well. I know that was talked about, but he's talked about him being promoted for, I believe it was eight different times. So yeah, what's your thoughts?
Well, on the formation and the attacking spots, it's like if we're not playing Higuain, we don't have a real number 9, a real definite striker. So I think what he was trying to say is like he's gonna try what he did with Napoli, using Mertens as a false 9, in which you always saw him drift to the wide sides, connect with Insigne, and wait for Callejon to run into through the middle of the box. So I think he will try to do the same, right? Like, saving the differences, but what Barcelona did with Pep Guardiola,
right?
That they had a consistent, systematic formation until the final third. Where in the final third, everyone started moving and moved freely, if you would. So, and we, as you said, we saw Ronaldo play as a number 9 in the match against Milan, and Dybala going to the right and Douglas going to the left, but they were always interchanging positions. So I think we don't have a definite formation. It's a 4-3 and whatever in the final third,
right?
Formation.
Right.
So I think that suits the Sarri style. Hope that the players can interpret it right.
Yeah, and I know there was a lot of talk on last game about what there was a lot of talk about the tactics, let's say, and a lot of people are saying that there isn't really any. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's pretty clear tactics on how they want to play. I find which another sticking point was the movement off the ball, and I find that our players are waiting quite a bit and not necessarily gelling. And I noticed this has been a thing, obviously going back into the previous, if you want to call it first half or the first part of the season. It didn't seem like there was, like, in the first 30 minutes, it seemed like everything was clicking. There was a lot of good passing, a lot of connections. Obviously, we didn't score, but the passes were there. But I find that it got to a point where it just seemed like everyone was lacking ideas. They didn't know where to go, who to make the run. Okay, I have the ball now, let me wait. And that's kind of a big problem I've noticed why we're not necessarily scoring a lot of goals and creating a lot of chances. Obviously we had a lot of shots. That's something that's different than Allegri's teams. Allegri's teams would go the whole game without having one shot on goal. This team's having shots, but they're not particularly
Dangerous.
Dangerous at all. I mean, I believe it was, I want to say 7 shots on target, 7 or 8 last game. But again, there was really only, if you want to count the penalty and then maybe Matuidi's chance, were the really 2 sticking, strong chances that we had to score. But yeah, what are your thoughts? I mean, again, the wingers, I've heard some people saying Danilo and Alexandro played well. Some people say Alexandro didn't play well at all, or Danilo also didn't play well at all. I think they did a pretty good job. Alexandro, I find, has been getting his bad rap where he's not necessarily running into great spots, or he's maybe sticking to closer to maybe where the midfield are and where Matuidi is. But I think for me, it's just not necessarily him needing to bomb up the wing all the time. I think he knows, and I think a lot of people are not understanding that he knows kind of his defensive role as well. Whereas I think maybe the Mezzala should be moving into that space and helping the winger out instead of our left back, because I think as it looked, we were getting obviously caught out a lot of times against Milan, and they were countering us pretty easily with numbers, and they had a guy sent off. So it's definitely interesting. What were your thoughts on the last game?
Well, you make a good point on the fullbacks. Well, we have a special situation, if you could say so, with the fullbacks in starter. We only have 3 proper fullbacks, one being Alexandro, Danilo, and De Siglio, and you can take out De Siglio out of there.
Yeah.
It's just,
we'll have to use them. We'll have to use them at some point. I know that. I mean, again, the guy has the skill he has, right? You can't blame him for that, right? We brought him in, so it's kind of, that's why I say it's our own fault, right? You can only give the guy so much shit because he's only as talented as he is. But anyways,
no. But as you said, I thought Danilo played a good match.
Me too. Very
in
well.
comparison to what his first 6 months in the team were, he was solid at defense. He made some good runs through the attack, and I think Alexandro, like you said, the whole left side of the field of the team is quite particular, I would say, because you have Matuidi who runs like a horse, but with no particular direction,
right?
With no particular objective. Then you have Ronaldo drifting into the box and leave Alexandro to cover all the defensive side of that pitch, of that part, the left side, and so he can't burst into attack like he used to. And with the last season of Allegri, you could see that most of the goals conceded on the Champions League were on the left side, because he actually was intended to connect with Ronaldo in the attack, and left the left side undiscovered, and led to some silly goals. You could see the ones against Ajax and that. So I think he's focusing more on the defensive side, and that's why he's not as flashy as he was, but he's doing a great job, especially if he's the only left back on the team, the proper left back.
Yeah, I think he's playing. He was played a lot too, and I mean, I know we talked about it last podcast with Felix, and yeah, it's I don't know. I feel for the guy. I think he's done a pretty good job. I mean, I think it's too easy again to say we can replace players on the wing, or on the fullback side of things, the left or the right. And I mean, yeah, Telles went to PSG for 25 million, but I mean, it's always easier said than done with these deals, right? We spent, I believe it was 40 million for Alexandro, or around somewhere in the 30s, but it's not easy. And then to get a guy that's reliable as well on the defensive end, I think we got to keep the guy. He's 29. His salary is only about 5 million, I think, a year, which is not expensive at all for what we're getting. And I just think I think when you have guys like Matuidi and Khedira and let's say maybe not Bentancur, but Pjanic and stuff like that, to get kind of that creativity in that movement. You know, if the mids and the attackers are not kind of gelling well, it doesn't really matter if Alexandro's bombing up the left side or not, right? Like there's not really any movement anyways. So you can't really give the guy shit for not and then maybe defensively opening something up on us on that left wing where we get exploited. So, if he's going to bomb up and then, you have Matuidi and Pjanic kind of next to each other passing the ball and they get picked, then they're down the field on us with a great opportunity. So I think it's more of a matter of we need to fix this midfield before we really start critiquing the fullbacks. You got to remember those guys are going all the way up and all the way down. And I think, if we have to give a little bit on that left side, and you look at last year, I mean, everyone's talking about this cross it in the box type style. And it's like, well, we did that last year and we got it seemed like we just kept putting the ball in and no one was there. It was like, put the ball and put the ball and put the ball in. I have no problem going up the middle and obviously using the flanks when you have to. But like I said, the main problem I see is you have guys that are just standing there. It was good in the first 30 minutes. Matuidi was actually making good runs. Bentancur was making good runs. And obviously you could have Pjanic who sits back there and he was, distributing, and obviously guys were moving around, making good passes. But once that movement stops, we're screwed. Right? Because then it's just static and they can easily just decide, okay, well, they're going to go there, and make it really difficult and sit back like they did and have a guy down and then also, be able to not obviously let a goal in. So I think we're gonna figure it out. I don't like kind of how Ronaldo was playing centrally. Wasn't a big fan of that because like me and Felix were talking about last time, and a lot of people have been saying it, they can essentially just jam the middle. And, it doesn't really, if he's not going to move consistently, then there's really no point of him being, not at his age now.
Especially.
You can't have him not move around. It's not going to work. But, that's kind of I think that kind of wraps up last game. I got not necessarily a question, but a request from obviously Felix of last podcast, and he kind of wanted us to talk about the history of the rivalry, the North versus South. And, it's not necessarily, I mean, some people say it's a huge rivalry. If you talk to Napoli fans, they'll think so. But, kind of the age-old question, is Napoli truly a rival, up kind of, you would say maybe not necessarily on the same level as Merda, but somewhere near. What's your opinion on that? Do you think Napoli is truly a rival, or are they just a team that have really been, improving in the last few years? But we'll get obviously into the history, and I'll kind of spit some facts out. But kind of before we get into that, what's your opinion on Napoli as being a rival to us?
Well, as you properly said, I think it's a bigger rivalry for Napoli than it is for Juve.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they don't have a big rival. They don't have it naturally in the region, so they have to look for a big rival. So they got Juve, and I think it all started, as you said, looking on the historic side, with a rivalry that it was made of Maradona and Platini. I guess it all started there, and well, in last couple of years, Napoli was the biggest rival for the league to Juve in this excellent dominating period of Serie A we're going through. So that where the rivalry sparked a little bit, but I think it goes a little with the culture and the social economic background there is between north and south of Italy. Like Juve represents the north style of Italy, and Napoli represents the well-lived fun style of the south.
Yeah, the
more
Latin. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're doing my job for me, Juan Pablo. But yeah, no, exactly. Um, Turin, you could say, is more of and obviously the north more wealthy, affluent. You could say Napoli, obviously more of a working class. Obviously, Turin is in the north. Believe they're about 500 miles apart, and Napoli's in the south. But yeah, like you said, exactly. 1980s, Maradona comes on the onto the scene. They pick him up, and obviously he leads them to their first
yeah,
Scudetto, which was obviously over Juve by 3 points, I believe. The previous year, Juve won the title, and they were 6 points ahead of Napoli, so they kind of had. But yeah, like you said, it is a big socioeconomic, and a lot of it when you look at even racism in Italy. And I know I'm not going to touch too much on that because that's a huge topic, and a lot of different opinions about that. And but that's kind of a main sticking point is this what they like to call campanalismo. And if you guys have a chance, the Gentleman Ultra on online, he's got a very good like story about talking about the rivalry north south between obviously Juve and Napoli. So check that out when you get a chance. But he brings up this point called campanalismo, which obviously, if you know, campanile is a bell tower in Italian, and it's pretty much just the definition of like a fervent patriotism locally, right? So if you've looked into the history of Italy, it's been fragmented for obviously you've had the Romans, but even in between that period and where we are now, it's not like Italy's been this one country through the years, right? And it's been fragmented, I would say, about until obviously 1861, which was the unification into the Kingdom of Italy, and then we get into a little bit of a breakup there, and then obviously the Republic is founded, which actually was in the beginning of June, the day that's celebrated. So collective identity of all these towns in Italy was the civil pride, right? So obviously you had all these civil states, Milan, obviously the House of Savoy, Firenze, Siena, and again they
Venice.
were, yeah, exactly, Venice, Genoa, obviously Napoli, and the South, right? So they're all fighting, they're all killing each other, and for what, hundreds, maybe thousands of years. So, and then there's a lot of talk about territorial discrimination. And I mean, to me, I think it's a lot of banter. Again, like I said, they've been killing and fighting and disputing on whose land is who for thousands of years. So to take that into account, there's a lot of, I would say, vitriol
Baggage.
between different states, even close, like in the north, in the central parts of Italy, not just a north-south. Obviously, that became a thing later on because of obviously the disparity of economically. But there'd be obviously there's banter back and forth, right? A lot of Juve fans will talk about obviously the mob, and they'll talk about Vesuvius and cholera, which is a big thing. And then obviously they like to call us Gobi, which is humpbacks, which means humpbacks in English. And that kind of started, I believe, because of there's a few kind of reasons why, but I believe the actual founding of it was because of I believe in the 50s, a jersey that we wore was kind of like didn't fit on the neck, so it kind of looked like they had hunchbacks. Obviously, there's things about guys working in the Fiat factories and them breaking their back, so they're like hunched over. But again, different things. And obviously, there was a mass migration from the south, because obviously the north is where a lot of the industry is in Italy, and that's where all the jobs were. So a lot of those southerners became fans of Juve because obviously they worked in the Fiat factory, and you have that kind of loyalty, right? And they're obviously one of the biggest teams, and they've been doing well for since we started, right? So it would be easy. But then there was also a lot of people called Teroni, which means a peasant, which is obviously a derogatory term for Southern Italians. And so they go back and forth. I mean, whether people want to look at it as the same way as racism, I mean, that's up for debate. But there's been stands taken by the league. Napoli fans for a while couldn't come, obviously, in our away sector and vice versa. But again, we'll go back to where it started. 85, 86, Juve won the title by 6 points. Napoli obviously was in third. And then the following year, they win their first Scudetto. And I believe they had beat Juve 3-1 that year. So it was kind of their coming out party. And Maradona's that's kind of the moment that really solidified Napoli. Obviously, next year, they came second to Milan. The following year after that, they won their second Scudetto, but their only Scudetto. And then they started a drastic decline.
And Maradona, as you said, was a big part of that rivalry. He was especially vocal against Juve.
Well, and Italy as well. You look at the 90 World Cup, which was in Italy. He said Napoli is a different country. Yeah. And there was kind of a debate whether the Napoli fan, because the semifinal took place obviously in Napoli against Argentina and Italy, and there was kind of a debate on whether the Napoli fans were going to support who they were going to support, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff was said, like negative stuff was said in the media, right? So you could even think discriminatory things were said in the media, but it's I don't know, it's different being obviously someone who wasn't born and lived in that, but but anyways, in the 90s, like they dropped off the map. 97, 98, they were relegated. Then they came back up in 99, 2000, relegated again the following year. And the funny thing is about this rivalry, which it's strange. So obviously Calciopoli happens, which was obviously bullshit, but that happens and we go down to Serie B. Well, the team that comes up with us that gets promoted is Napoli, is one of the teams in 06, 07. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of eerily strange how that kind of happened at the same time. And then kind of things kicked off, right? We look at, obviously, in the 2012, we'll get into the 2012 Coppa Italia Final. We obviously lose that game. That was Del Piero's last game as well. Kind of a key game that maybe kickstarted, the rivalry there. 2012, 2013, Napoli finished in second, but I don't think there was we finished with a 9-point gap to win the Scudetto. No real challenge, which then put us in the Supercoppa Italiana, which we won 4-2 after extra time. That was again, it seemed like we were meeting them a lot in these different cup matches, right? 2014, Napoli then wins the Supercoppa on penalties, 6-5. Again, another close game. And 15-16, I would think is probably one of the biggest years of the rivalry. Juve starts off horribly. We're down in 12th place. And I don't know if you can remember that. I think that's kind of the fans were that's kind of one of the times where the fans started we were in chaos. But we come back all the way and we win the Scudetto with 9 points. But
with the famous Sasa goal.
Like exactly, that's what I was going to bring up. That was kind of like the dagger in the heart. And I think after that, it was essentially that was the game over right there, is the Zaza winner. And yeah, that was a crazy game to watch. But and then I guess then you got to think, right, the following year, 16-17. So after in that summer, Higuain, we go and pick up Higuain for a record fee. And that's kind of when this regional discrimination kind of starts happening, and the away fans are not allowed to travel. And really, the only kind of interesting thing that happened that year, I would say, was the Coppa Italia semis. We played them. It was, pretty interesting games. We beat them 3-1 at first, and then they came back and beat us 3-2. Obviously, we went through on aggregate. But And then what else? Let's go.
Next year.
Yeah, 17-18. I think that's got to be the closest title race, obviously, barring them shitting the bed after us being like horrible. But yeah, 17-18, where they lost it in the hotel, as they like to say.
With a Higuain goal.
Yeah, and Napoli comes to J Stadium, obviously April 22nd, and they beat us 1-0 with a Koulibaly header at the death, and that I think was a pretty horrible moment for Juve fans. Obviously, Napoli fans weren't even allowed to go if you were from Campania, which is obviously the region Napoli encompasses. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting year. Kind of a lot of fans were on edge if that was going to be it or not for us. But and then obviously 18-19, Juve wins both games handily. Looking into this year, we won the first game 4-3 at home, which was kind of interesting because we were up 3-0. And then they slowly came back, tied the game, and luckily we scored one at the end. And then we lost to Napoli 2-1 at the San Paolo. So those are just some things kind of, discussing kind of where we've kind of clashed. Obviously, there's more games, but I think kind of what we looked at are some of the key moments. Obviously, we scored, I believe Ronaldo scored in the 90th minute in January to kind of consolidate, but it wasn't a great game from what I recall. Napoli kind of took it to us, and obviously the season stopped because of COVID, so that kind of gave us I guess, hopefully it looks like to be a good kind of stoppage where we can regroup, but we'll see obviously in the coming months if that's true or not. But so this game, formations, I know there's been kind of some things whirling, about what it's going to be, whether we're going to be playing with our favorite player Khedira or not, or if we're going to keep the same lineup. But so a lot of sources are saying we're going to keep the same lineup. Ronaldo obviously playing centrally. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Khedira should be in the lineup with Bentancur obviously as the regista, or should we kind of go again with Pjanic and as the regista and obviously Bentancur as a mezzala? But I think actually the only difference is Cuadrado being as the right back instead of Danilo would be the only difference.
Yeah, seems like Danilo got a knock and he's not best fit to play. In the Pjanic subject, for starters, in last match, in the formation announced by the Juventus official account, they trolled us a little bit, because they put the midfield as Bentancur in front of the defense and Matuidi and Pjanic playing as Mezzala, and I think that's what. Yeah,
but or maybe for a little bit, but anyways.
I think that's what we all want to see. We want to see Pjanic playing a more offensive position. If not, I guess we should give Bentancur that spot.
Yeah.
He did better against Inter in that spot that Pjanic did against Lyon, which supposedly Inter is a better side than Lyon, and he has already showed us for around 2-3 years that he isn't up to par to in that position. He is not a defensive midfielder. He is not a regista. So I think Sarri should move on from Pjanic in that spot, even if that means Khedira coming in.
So, and then what do you think about Pjanic as a mezzala, or obviously on the right side? I know me and Felix talked about it, and I don't know if you heard, but basically we don't think he's capable of playing that. I mean, I think he just doesn't have the legs. I don't see Pjanic as a player that's going to be like making runs into the box and, coming back and being like a workhorse kind of player. I just don't see it, and I know a lot of people have been talking about, they're like, well, why don't they play him as a mezzala? Why don't they play him as a trequartista, but I don't see him being that guy to, make the difference. Like it just doesn't. And who knows? I mean, obviously they could throw him in, but to me, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Juan Pablo?
Yeah, you're right on that, on the physical level of Pjanic. He's not suited for any physical task. He showed that. He doesn't have the legs. He doesn't have the body strength. If you would, but he played more as a offensive player and as a Mezzala in Roma when he was there, and he performed better. That's why Juventus bought him in first place. But I know he won't be a Vidal kind of style of player who's going to run up and down the field as a Mezzala, but I think he will be a kind of saving differences, kind of Xavi or Iniesta kind of Mezzala, where he gets through balls to the attackers. He gets good passing to Dybala and to Douglas to build up the attack. I think it's worth a try. He can do it better. He can do it worse. Sorry, than he's done it at the defensive midfield. So I'm scared every time he tackles. It's a potential booking. He can tackle without making a fall. So.
Well, and
So
like you
I'm
said,
not-
he can do it better, hopefully, than Khedira can do it. So
Yeah.
that's maybe
Yeah.
the one thing. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's weird how we're running into this problem, and we've had it. I mean, I would say since last year, because last year, I mean, I was calling for his head to go over the summer. It looked like we had options, but I guess the club decided not to. I mean, it is what it is. Obviously, Sarri's been saying that Ronaldo's going to be playing centrally, so obviously Ronaldo probably going back on the right and Costa on the left, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing. Yeah, it just seems like it's going to be a tough game if that's the case, because obviously they're not going to have Costas Manolas in the lineup, Napoli or Kevin Malcuit. But and obviously David Ospina has been suspended, so Meret will play in goal for them, but they'll still have Koulibaly at the back. And Maximovic, who's seemed like he's been playing well
Better.
for Napoli. Obviously some other players, like the only notable thing that I've had that was different was Hizai was reported to be on the left back. Someone also said that Mario Rui will be on the left back, so that's the only difference. Obviously, Di Lorenzo on the right. They're obviously going to be playing a 4-3-3. Obviously, I should mention that before. But and then again, some different midfield choices I've seen. One had it Elmas as the left mid. One had it, one had it Elmas as the right mid. Also, someone else had Fabian Ruiz as the right mid. So, again, all of this is to change. We'll see tomorrow, obviously, before the match. I don't see them playing necessarily any different than how we would see them. And then again, will Politano start over Callejon in this game? Obviously, Callejon started on the bench, with that weird-looking mustache, but. So I don't know if he'll have the start or not, but that is all to be determined tomorrow. And then Demme will be playing in the central role with Zielinski to his right, or to his left, excuse me. I did it again. So kind of let's look at the keys to the match. I think for us, intensity. Just keep up the work rate. Keep making good passes, keep kind of, winning the ball back as quick as we can, which Sarri likes, pressing, the closest players press whoever has the ball when we lose it, win balls back, circulate around. If we have to cross it in, obviously work our winger or fullbacks, into the equation. And I think it's just, good off the ball, stop standing when you don't have the ball. We need good off the ball movement. That's going to be key, because we still haven't scored. Again, we've come back and we haven't scored a goal, right? It's kind of
Exactly.
a talking point that we had last matches. It would have been nice to get off the pine and get one on the scoreboard, but that obviously didn't happen. And hopefully replicate the first 30 minutes. Those are the kind of three keys. Replicate the first 30 minutes. Obviously, half of that was at even strength for the whole game. And I think if we could do that, we're gonna win tomorrow. So, and if not, well then we'll see what happens. But yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on the keys to winning tomorrow's game?
I think in the chance of getting repetitive, the key will be main midfield. I think they have on paper a stronger midfield than we're going to line up. Sincerely,
Yeah,
with the lineups reported, Fabian Ruiz will be the best midfielder on the pitch, in my opinion. So I guess I think that will be the key, the midfield. If the Juve midfield is not gonna show up to the standards, I guess the defense and mainly the attack, as you said, that still hasn't scored in the first 90 minutes back to football, they're gonna have to show up. Douglas, Dybala, and Ronaldo need to show up. If Cuadrado and Bernardeschi are called upon, they need to show up. They need to show us what they can bring to this end of the season, and show us if we're ready to win the Scudetto and challenge on the Champions League. Like I said, I think the result we get tomorrow is going to affect really hard the mentality and the emotional factor of the team going through.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that you made a perfect point, and I mentioned it before the game against Milan. You got to get these games rolling. It's like a train. You got to get the wheels moving, and hopefully, I think that's kind of what any team in this kind of era, if you want to call it, or this moment, is really banking off of, and that's why I think everyone is thinking Bayern is going to do so well because they got the wheels moving, right? They're moving forward. They're winning games, and when you can get these milestones, it's obviously a notch on your belt, but it's also gives you the motivation and that kind of happiness. Okay, we're doing well, right? Whereas obviously if you go in and you lose this game, sure, you might say, well, it doesn't really mean anything. It's only a Coppa Italia, whatever, first two games back. But I think it definitely does play into the heads of the players, right? Because then it only goes, and then, okay, what happens if you lose the first game coming back? And then what happens if, you get off to a rocky start? There's only so many games left, right? So I agree with you 100% on that. This is going to be very important tomorrow to set a message, set the tone, and yeah, I think Juve is capable of doing it. I just think that they need to perform. Bentancur, he had a great game, but when you only have one guy really doing it, you're unbalanced, right? So it's we'll see what happens, but I think, yeah, there's definitely opportunity we're definitely a talented enough team. Now let's get into depth. What do you think about, there's been a lot of people saying, we have depth, and I think that's true. I think we got bodies. Now, when you look at the subs that were made, obviously in the last game, what are your thoughts, kind of who we have coming off? Rabiot, I mean, let's hear what you got to say. I'm not gonna repeat what I said. Let's hear what you got to say.
Well, as you said, we have numbers, but
Yeah,
they have to put that numbers to the result. You look to the bench, and although we have a lot of players, they're not as exciting to come in. Like the player that excites me the most coming in, I guess it was Bernardeschi, and that's saying a lot.
Are you a off the record? Are you a Bernardeschi fan?
I wish he could do better, but I'm not. I liked him when he played, but his inconsistency is discouraging. It's really discouraging. And every time Rabiot enters the pitch, I'm hoping he can surprise us. He can shut all of our mouths, but he never does that. He's always his attitude is what's worst. He doesn't move, like you said. People when players don't have the ball, they just stand there. Rabiot is a personification of that mentality, of that desire. If he gets a wrong pass, he moans. He makes a face.
Yeah.
He doesn't recover fast, and I guess that's what gets you to the top level, to the world class level.
I guess that's what gets you 9.5 million a year. God.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what he was on about last game. That was just dreadful. And then I know there was a couple of people that were saying, they were impressed with Bernardeschi. And I just think it wasn't I wouldn't say it was a horrible performance, but it was just a performance. He did some really good things, and then he would just do some really stupid things, and you're just like, no, just do the good things. Like, we've seen moments where he's made good runs and he's made, attacking plays, right? And obviously he had his game against Atletico, but I think it just comes down to, that attitude. And I guess what haircut he has during the game. Anyways, it's going to be interesting because we're going to need these, and hopefully, we can get Ramsey back. I don't see him coming in tomorrow. I don't see that. I don't see the risk. Even if he was, let's say, 80%, I still don't think you risk it. Just make sure, because again, he's another guy that's, we got all these midfielders, and I would say he showed, promise, Ramsey, but we got all these midfielders that are like injury prone. So it's you're almost forced to not, even if, let's say, you have a guy who's 80%, you almost don't want to because there's too much ahead to worry about. But anyways, Juan Pablo, what is your prediction? Let's get it out there. We're gonna everyone in the chat's gonna hold you to this.
Yeah, it's the most difficult part of the conversation.
That's why I also asked you about Bernardeschi, because we got to make our list because that's what being a Juve fan is. Who's this fan? Who's who likes this guy? Who doesn't? So, but anyways.
I'm already for disclaimers. I'm already on the not the Ramsey fan.
Oh, there you go. Whatever. I mean, like I said, I famously said he's Mr. Glass Knees, so I agree. I thought it was, everyone was talking about free transfers, but you're spending 7 million a season. That's a lot of money.
He doesn't play,
and a guy who's not playing again. What can you do, right? So, but anyways, without further ado, let's hear that prediction.
I'm gonna go with the optimistic one. I'm gonna go for a 3-1.
Okay, 3-1.
With us winning. I was thinking about the 2-1, but I guess if we can get the first one, I think we can get a couple of goals. That's what I thought about Milan. I think that if the penalty went in, we could easily won 3-0. But if we don't get the first one, we're not gonna score in the whole night. So if we get the first one, I believe a 3-1 is possible.
And who's scoring for you?
Well, you're always gonna have to bank on CR7.
Are you sure? I don't know after last game.
Yeah, no. Maybe that's what makes him stronger, right? It's proving everyone wrong. Seems exactly. Like that's what fuels him up. I'm gonna go with not my favorite guy, but with a Bonucci goal.
Okay.
He puts the green time, and I'm gonna go with a Dybala goal as well. I'm thinking they're gonna let him try on a free kick and score a goal.
Yeah, well, he did have. I know Al was brought it up, and I obviously went to go look back on it. But if you looked at last game, Donnarumma was kind of like heavily staying towards the one side, so he could have actually easily have put one in on the near post a couple times actually. That we had free kicks, but obviously it didn't work. For me, my first game logic was I always put goals against us, and that never happened. We were always putting clean sheets somehow. So I put the 2-0 last game. Again, like you said, I agree. I think if any one of those if a goal had gone in, I think we could have easily had scored. It was just an up that we weren't capitalizing on them not having a guy on the pitch. So that's kind of how it was. I think I'm gonna go 2-1. Obviously, winning the 14th Coppa Italia. I think. I mean, Ronaldo definitely is watching the show, so definitely gave him a 1 star 1 out of 10 last game. So hopefully that's going to give him, like you said, the motivation. I think he's going to get 1 goal. I think Dybala's going to get another goal. I don't know how, but I think it's going to be 2-1. I think, like you said, it's going to be 2 attacking teams. So I think if we start getting into teams start scoring, I think we're going to be going back and forth. And whoever's going to make, obviously, the least mistakes, but is going to prevail. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was even more than that, but who knows? Juve will probably go and play a stinker 0-0 or something like that, or like a 1-0 or something, but hopefully not. Let's be optimistic. Even if I think we're going to lose, I would still pick a winning score because
Always.
I don't think, I don't know why you'd. I mean, sure, okay. There's been plenty of times where I was like, yeah, we're probably gonna lose to Atletico second leg, but you got to be optimistic. Let's see this thing out, boys. So, yeah, I think that's. I think we did a pretty thorough job there. So something I usually do at the end. Obviously, sorry guys, I didn't have enough time to grab questions from the viewers, but. We'll look into that obviously after the game tomorrow. Something that I do obviously now is called Allo Stadio or a Torino. Unfortunately, you haven't been to the stadium, which is not a big deal. We hoped that you get to go there as soon as possible because it's an unreal experience, like I always say. But let's just get into some memorable Juve moments. Kind of did the same thing last time with Felix. What's kind of like, let's bring back the nostalgia. What are some of the most memorable moments? I mean, obviously we've had lots. We've won the Scudetto eight years in a row, but so obviously Felix talked about 2011, 2012, kind of the inauguration of the stadium, but floor is yours. Anything you want to bring up? It's all on you.
Thanks. Well, my best recent memories with Juventus mostly come with one of my all-time favorite players, which was the Principino Marchisio.
Okay.
I'm a loyal fan of him, and his awesome goal against Inter at Juve Stadium, where he left Julio Cesar on the floor with 2 touches.
That was unreal, man. Unreal. I mean, thinking, but yeah, that was actually kind of right before everything kind of kicked off. That was pretty much probably the only real good moments we really had during those times. So,
exactly.
And, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. And Adam Digby, before one of the Derby d'Italias, was like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. And I'm just like, what? You wrote a book about Juve's history, and you're telling me that game doesn't mean anything just because of how far apart we were. I'm like, no. That is not. We want to crush those bastards anytime.
No matter what.
Anytime. I don't care if it's a summer friendly. I don't care if it's on the street. I don't care wherever the hell the game is. We want to kill those guys. But yeah, that was honestly unbelievable how he cut past one defender and then just like somehow chips it over. That was unreal, man. Unreal. But yeah, he was such a great player, Marchisio. I was unfortunate enough. I think he got injured right before I went to the stadium, so I didn't get to see him play live. I got to see Gigi, which was obviously awesome, and obviously BBC. But yeah, man. Anything else? I mean, what do you think about how he kind of he obviously wasn't given the time? I don't want to stir up too many bad things right now before this game, but what are your thoughts on how he left?
It was heartbreaking really, and that's something that most of us Juventini don't understand yet. That's why he was pushed out the door and Khedira was renewed. But yeah, sometimes things don't go as we want.
Yeah, and a lot of fans like to try and say Kadir was somehow playing better, but I don't know if you watched the preseason games, and I believe he featured in all of them, and he actually looked really good. I know he got hurt when he went to, obviously when he played for Zenit, but he was actually looking like a pretty key piece in the midfield, and I was actually looking forward. And then I believe I was at work, and it just started blowing. My phone was blowing up. Twitter was blowing up that they had mutually agreed to cancel his contract. But I was just like, damn, like, not even the first game, like the last game before the season starts.
Yeah,
That's savage. Like, I don't know, to be able to do that and not like somehow there be a riot. I don't know how that was, how that was even a. And it's just weird with legends. You know, I think I'm gonna have you know, when I get some time, obviously there's gonna be lots to talk about from now until probably even next summer. But when I get some time or there's a little bit of a lull, I think I want to kind of go over talking about the legends, how certain players were honored, and try and get as much information as possible. So, and kind of just, you know, replay the story for any fans. You know, there's a lot of new fans. You know, we went from, what was it, 8 million to, or 4 million to, yeah, so 8 to 40 million. So there's a lot of fans out there not necessarily knowing kind of some of the things that have happened to our legends, and you know, that I think is going to be kind of a perfect topic to bring up in the future. So yeah, thank you very much, Juan Pablo, for coming on. I know this was, I was looking, Michael unfortunately couldn't go, but yeah, I appreciate you coming, stepping up to the plate, and again, great guest to have on. I'm again just trying to look for some new fans, different opinions, different approaches, and I really appreciate you coming on again. I look forward to seeing you on again in the future if you would like to, and yeah, I appreciate you. Appreciate
thanks
coming
for
on.
having me. Thanks for having me. It will be a pleasure to come back.
Awesome to hear. And just some closing remarks, guys. Obviously, my personal Twitter, Instagram at Daniel Negro, which I'm trying to. It's kind of weird how the app works. If I have my notifications set up, that it'll like switch between. So if you've ever wondered why I'm like suddenly tweeting with one account and then tweeting with another account, it's not my fault. It's just a notification has come up from whatever account, and then I see something and I go. But anyways, for the main content of this channel, this podcast, at Juventinita, DAL, on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, you can find this podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and yeah, just keep your eyes open on Twitter for the links as soon as they're available. And yeah, I'm hoping to get this up tonight, and yeah, definitely have a post game after the game tomorrow. Obviously, another great Juve fan. We're gonna have another rookie on the show. So that's gonna be awesome. But stay tuned, and always, fino alla fine, forza Juventus. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.